Hello everyone. In this session we are going to talk about the primitive data types in Java. These are the different variables that you can create to store integer data, fractions, characters or boolean. For integers, as we can see, we have four different types that we can use: byte, short, int and long, and they differentiate in terms of the size and the range of numbers that they can store. As we can see, byte is 8-bit, short is 16 bits, int is 32 and long is 64, and the range of numbers they can store is kind of associated with the size. The size is 8 bits. The range is from 2 raised to 7 to 2 raised to 7 minus 1, and for short the range is minus 2 raised to 15 to 2 raised to 15 minus 1. For integer, 32 bits, so the range is minus 2 raised to 31 to 2 raised to 31 minus 1. And for long, which is the longest integer, which can store numbers from minus 2 raised to 63 to 2 raised to 63 minus 1. So these are the different ranges, and depending upon a requirement we will create a byte, short, int or long to store the integers, the numbers without any fraction, without any decimal point. They also have some default values. If we do not specify any initial value to these variables, then the default value will be used. That is 0 for all the integers. After integers, we have fractions to hold the data with the decimal point. We have float and double. Float is 32 bits, double is 64 bits, and their ranges are pretty big as compared to integers. As you can see, these are the approximate values for float and double. For float, it is plus minus 3.40 into 10 raised to 38, which is a pretty big number. And for double, it is 1.79 into 10 raised to 308. It's kind of very big. Float can have up to 7 digits after decimal point, and double can have up to 15 digits after decimal point. So both of them store pretty big numbers. The default values for float is 0.0f, and for double it is 0.0d. Now what is this f and d over here? For float, whenever you initialize the value, whenever you add the value, you have to add this small f at the end to specify the value is float. That's a compulsion. For double though, you can add this small d at the end, or you can skip it. That is not the compulsion. So small f simply means this is a float value, and small d simply means it is a double value. But if you do not add anything, it will be automatically considered as double. So this small d is not compulsion. These are the default values anyways. 0.0f is default value for float, and 0.02 is the default value for double. So in total 6 types for numbers, 4 integers and 2 fractions. Apart from that, to store a character, char, char, which is 16 bits, and it stores any single character. The default value for character is a null character. So this \u0000 is the null character representation. And then for storing boolean values, we have boolean, which reserves approximately 1 bit in the memory location, and which can store true or false, and the default value for boolean is false. Now let's go to Eclipse and see how we can actually declare these data types and initialize them and try to print their values in the console. So let us start with the integer values. If I want to declare a byte, I'll write byte and then give it some name, say b1 is equal to the initial value. Then comes the short and give it some name, say sh1 is equal to some value. And then comes the int, let us say num1 is equal to some value again. And then comes the long, let us say l1 is equal to some long number. So to remember, byte is the smallest, then comes the short, then comes the int, and then long. Now to declare the fractions, we have float. So we'll write the word float and give it some name, say f1 is equal to say 12 point something something and f. This f at the end is very important for float. If you do not specify it, you will see the error. it will start showing this error if you do not specify the character f at the end when you initialize the value, when you add the value to the float variable. Then comes the double, which is a double precision, and let's call it as d1 is equal to some value point some value, and as I said, you do not have to specify d at the end. If you specify, it's fine. Even if you don't specify, by default it will be considered as a double value. Then these are for the numbers, 4 integers and 2 fractions. Then we have character. To declare a character, we have this type char, and then let's call it as ch1 is equal to, say, a. Any single character that you put inside the single quotations, treated as character. Anything, any capital letter, any small letter, any number, or any special character, doesn't matter. As long as you are keeping it inside these single quotations, that will be treated as a character. Then comes the boolean. Say boolean b2 is equal to true. So 8 types: byte, short, int, long, float, double, character, and boolean. And apart from that, one more type we will use frequently, which is not part of primitive data types, but it's very useful in Java, that is called as string of characters. The way we declare a string is using this capital string. It's not a primitive data type, so you will not see it kind of getting highlighted as other types are getting highlighted. You say string str1 is equal to anything that you put inside the double quotations. It's called a string. Any capital letter, any small letter, any number, any special character, whatever you specify inside a double quotation is treated as string. Very useful, a string of characters. Now to declare these values in the console, simply we need to do a sysout statement, that is system.out.println, and let's say I want to print a byte. I'll specify b1 here, and when you run this program, you get the output 123. That is the current byte value. Again, couple of rules for declaring the variables, very similar to the rules we have seen for class name and package name. Variable name cannot have a space in between. You can add underscore. Okay, again, you cannot start with a number. It cannot start with a special character. Only special character allowed is a $. Same rules. It cannot have space in between, and you can add underscore if you want to segregate the words inside a variable, and it cannot start with any number or any special character apart from $. These are the rules we need to remember well while creating the variables.